Welcome everyone. This is Chris, your local librarian at the Palo Alto City Library. And I know far, far too much about this video game. Minecraft has been I'm somewhat of a Minecraftologist, you could say. So this was something I've been playing for a long time. 2 years ago, I started a project. It was a California State Library Innovation Grant, LSTA. You can look it up on Google. We were testing out an idea, and not my original idea, but a security education idea that came from a person named Jared White. He works at VMware. And if you are curious about this project, you can check it out over at plpinfo.org/Minecraft. I think that's the URL. I'll include that in the description for time travelers who might find this in future centuries. But I did this project, and as a result, there is a toolkit you can find on their website. I also wrote a couple chapters. The first one's in this book that just came out called Cybersecurity for Information Professionals. And in that one, it's kind of like I introduced the idea of a meta Minecraft study. So not just taking the lesson plan that was developed for that research project, but also how could we expand that to the entire Minecraft universe? Sort of the like the gestalt of Minecraft. And I think I just said that word wrong. But taking Minecraft as a whole, the online community, and modding, multiplayer, all the different modes. How can we kind of apply that in a science of gaming, quote unquote, setting? So this is a long way of me explaining why I'm here for the next hour to answer your questions. I hope you have some for me. You can post them in chat. I didn't get any emails this week, but please also feel free to email me. My info is listed on the event for this Q&A session. If you go to that URL down at the bottom, library.cityofpaloalto.org/Minecraft, you'll find some future events that are coming up and a whole bunch more. It's sort of my little curated web space for this ongoing exploration into the world of video games and education and what can public libraries do, especially. So 2 weeks ago, I kind of ran into some troubleshooting problems. Accidentally layered my audio. I'm still learning the streaming software, so please bear with me if this is not like the HD 4K stream that you were hoping for. We'll get there. But 2 weeks ago when we did this session, found out I had some audio problems. That one is sadly lost to time. We'll see. I might try to redo it with some subtitles or something, but there's some weird sort of overlays. But this week, boy oh boy, check out those audio levels, those sound bars. That's cool, right? I was very proud of figuring out that part in OBS. Okay, but enough about me. I want to put some things on your radar if you're watching and you are maybe curious about what's happening in the Minecraft community right now. I did just hear about one cool event that's happening this weekend. It's with the Applied Computing Foundation. And let me make sure I get their URL right here. Their website is applied-computing.org, and I've met with these folks months ago before the shelter-in-place order. They're doing some cool stuff. This event is not free, but there is a sort of sliding scale setup, from what I understand. You can go to their website to find out more. But they're doing like a sort of, I like the way they named it actually, a craftathon. So not quite a hackathon, but a craftathon in our Minecraft universe. There's one other group I met at Mindfair 2 years ago. Mindfair is the sort of community-run. It was at the San Mateo Convention Center. It's sort of like Comic-Con, but imagine everything's Minecraft. There's a bunch of merch. There's a bunch of presenters. I did my thing with this workshop for 2 days. But I also heard from another group based in San Jose, and I'm blanking on the name right now, but I know they're on meetup.com. It was something like MC Rocks. They presented a really, I could probably, well, I'll let me make a note to write this in the show notes here too, because they had a really neat setup. Where it was like kind of similar to the code builder that's part of the Minecraft Education Edition, where he had like basically a web interface that would let you write, make changes to your live server and stuff. It was an interesting setup. Oh, whoops! I'm typing on the wrong keyboard here. I wish I could show you my desk right now. It's literally like plastered with LCD screens. I'm feeling very futuristic right now. Okay, I need to add. Okay. What else do I want to say here? Oh, I should mention, so I'll repeat this again at the end in case anyone stops by and they're running a little late, but Camden will be back soon. Second week of August. We're kind of like switching off every other week right now. Well, there will be another edition of Teach a Librarian How to Play Minecraft. It was a lot of fun last time. We finally got, we got past night 1. Very important in the Minecraft world to figure out how to do your, how to save. Just today we reached another milestone. We now have an account that we'll be playing on, so we can save between episodes. So before it was just on the demo that's kind of time limited. And actually that brings up a good point for anyone listening who's like totally new to Minecraft. They're wondering how do I start? What is, what's the next step here? You've sold me, Chris. How do I start playing? Well, there is in fact a free version. You can go to minecraft.net and Java Edition will pretty much run on every computer. And that's the really cool part about this game is that, it's been around for 10 years, so you don't need like the best computer in the world to run it. I think the meme is, the online joke is that it's it will work on a potato, so just imagine that. No French fries, but you can pretty much run it on almost every computer. It will work on a Raspberry Pi. It's literally available on every modern video game console right now. So the sky's the limit. It even works on a Kindle, from what I've heard. I haven't seen it, but an attendee in one of my workshops earlier this year that was their main go-to. And personally, the touchscreen interface doesn't really work for me, but if you're a person who is familiar with the keyboard and mouse setup, or you prefer a controller, there is definitely a setup that will work for you. The Xbox specifically is really good about accessibility, so they have some controllers that you can modify if you have any sort of motor control issues or things that would make it easier to play. That would probably be my go-to if you wanted to customize that way. But literally anything will run Minecraft, and that's one of the great things about it. If your computer runs kind of slow, one of the best things to do is to not play locally. Just have it like... One moment, I think I just heard someone knock on a door here. Okay, false alarm. We are doing this live, so apologies there. What was I saying? Oh, it will work on, yeah. You can run it pretty much on anything. If you're finding that it's kind of like stuttering or not playing that great, there is a well-known extension or mod that you can download for the Java version called Optifine, and that really does a great job, like changing it from something that's kind of, if you're stuck in like 10 frames per second, that area, you can boost it up to 60. Like it'll start to be smooth, very fast. Oh, there is another version that works on a Raspberry Pi, but that's actually not the full thing, so just be aware of that too. So one of the confusing, or maybe one of the most confusing parts about Minecraft is just trying to figure out what version's what. I actually have over in the PLP blog, that's at plpinfo.org. There's some descriptions there for librarians. I was writing specifically for how to get this into a computer lab, but I described the different versions and what makes them different. Really, now there's only two versions. There's Bedrock and Java. Some people might have older versions that they're running on older software, but what's getting the most attention and the most updates right now, sort of actively developed, is those two versions. Oh, so I've talked about, I told you about one book. The other one is a lot shorter. The 52 gaming programs for libraries. That includes it's like a 4-page sort of lesson plan based on, the one that I developed a year earlier and sort of did some test runs around. What I want to emphasize with those, and I think this kind of gets lost if you're just kind of reading as like a recipe, is that this is really meant to be something that you as a parent or a teacher or a workshop runner, a librarian, whoever you are, if you're using this, take the things that sort of like modify it based on the group size. That's really hard to kind of like get across. But if you've got a group of like 30, maybe you want to split them up into some smaller groups. If you don't have enough computers, you can do most of the activity not even with a computer. So what we actually ended up doing at my library is skipping Minecraft completely, because I later realized that in an hour of time, no matter what size group of students you have, if you don't have Minecraft kind of ready to go, like if it's not set up on a bunch of computers or on a bunch of consoles and it's just sort of there, you actually spend a lot of time getting people into the game itself. And it's not just about like accounts and passwords and that thing, but controlling for, oh gosh, listen to me. So I'm sounding like an IT sort of requirements list here. Let's break it down a little bit more. You don't know who's going to show up or what version of Minecraft they play. And as I said before, there's like 5 different versions they might use. So if you're providing a game, this is really difficult in a sort of walk up or a public computer lab like we have in libraries, because you need to make it sort of flexible space. Other places like say the Microsoft Store or other sort of gaming centers, it's all there. People know what to expect. But what I found interesting once I started running this in the real world is that you might get people who only play on a touchscreen, and then you put a keyboard and mouse in front of them and they have no idea. So yeah, I'm old school. I'm from the keyboard mouse era, a little bit of controllers, but putting myself in their shoes and like trying to jump into a game and actually build something, that would be really difficult. So I decided to actually just let's skip the gameplay entirely. But what we're gonna do is actually we're gonna basically get the blueprints going. So we're still talking about Minecraft, but we're doing the preliminary stuff. We're sort of doing the pre-planning before we start to make our design. And, at this point, you're probably wondering, like, what am I talking about? Because you haven't read the lesson plan. So let me run through that really quick, too. Okay, and there's 2 layers to this, too, because you also need to understand what is threat modeling. So in my 140 or now 280 character Twitter style elevator pitch, threat modeling is basically running a simulation of what is going to go wrong and how am I going to fix that before it ever actually happens. So this is most often applied in the world of information security and cybersecurity or personal security, where there's going to be there are some threats out there. And for a 12-year-old playing Minecraft, one threat might be like their older brother or sister logging into their account that their parent gave them. So we can all kind of we all kind of got the same sort of baseline of like username and password. That's probably something you want to protect. So a threat model there would include, okay, who are the people, or usually it's sort of based on different actors. Who are they? What could they do? And then we're going to develop a plan based on that idea. So that's threat modeling in like 2 seconds. It is a lot more complex than that, and this is another thing that I think gets kind of lost in, the soundbite version of this workshop, is that it is much more complex. There's a lot of variables that you can throw it at, and it's usually those variables where things get kind of interesting. So for example, security, like we don't all have infinite resources to throw at this, right? So in the same way, Minecraft is, it's either time limited or resource limited. So when you're building something in the game, you're talking about actual things. Blocks are, sort of equivalent to, or a wall in Minecraft is sort of equivalent to that layer of defense that you're adding to your fort or to your village that you're protecting, or whatever it is that you care about the most. And that's another sort of element that I think gets lost in the whole workshop setup too, is that I wouldn't even tell students like what's going to be in your house. It doesn't even need to be a house. It's just something that you care about. That could just be a Minecraft chest where you're hiding all your diamonds. Something like that. But so that's sort of the basis of threat modeling. And if you've played survival mode for any amount of time in the game, you'll understand that there's a lot of stuff trying to attack you. There's monsters everywhere. So this defensive thinking it's so deeply entwined into the game mechanics that unless you played the game, that part kind of gets lost too. But anyway, so that's threat modeling. The workshop itself is about sort of introducing those concepts. What does it mean to have a high impact or low impact event in terms of security? What does probability mean? And combining those two, coming up with some sort of score, some sort of algorithm that you can rate things. And then similar to how, any design thinking class would walk you through, you're going to kind of come up with a plan based on that. So what are my top 3 things that I'm most worried about? And then develop some sort of strategy based on that. In the world of Minecraft, that usually looks like building a castle or a fort or multiple layers of walls, that type of consideration. So this process of building those walls or talking about the security that you're going to put in your base, your Minecraft base, that opens up a conversation about, how does this play out in the real world? And what I end up doing towards my last couple of workshops before the whole shelter in place thing was actually drawing some parallels between like how were castles designed 500 years ago. There's a reason why that design, and I'm blanking here, but I'm pretty sure it was called the Motte-and-bailey There was a certain type of fort in medieval Europe. They were all built the same way. Until the bow and arrow. And so the bow and arrow, which by the way is also in the Minecraft game, the bow and arrow was a technological revolution that completely changed the game for people. So castle designs and fort designs after that had to kind of evolve based on that new threat. It's the exact same thing when you're talking about security online. And yeah, I've heard this from multiple people who are way, way smarter than me in the security world, saying that they wished they had started learning threat modeling first before. People tend to kind of jump into the tool set first. Like everyone wants to talk about password managers or firewalls or these things that because they have a name and they're it's a thing that you can see or you can do or you can configure. It has a physical presence. So that's sort of where we sort of gravitate to, is those things that they're out there, it's visible. Threat modeling is not visible. At best, you're talking about it's often represented as a map or like usually, in the real world of IT, it's usually represented as some sort of data flow or some sort of diagram, but it is abstract. And that's difficult to talk about with especially with like teens and tweens, without some sort of parallel to kind of mesh these two worlds together. So the workshop is really about, there's this intro section, and I would give like the first 15, 20 minutes just kind of introducing these topics. And then because we're not using the game, we're going straight to a design tool I found online. It's actually, if you go to the URL at the bottom of the screen here, /Minecraft, it's called the MC Design Tool. And that's essentially it looks like an Excel sheet grid. It's entirely browser based. Point and click, and you're just you're building out the outline or the, almost like pixel art. You're building those base designs. You're adding multiple layers of security, and it's represented visually in a way that after everyone in the class is done, you can look at it, you can put it on screen, and then you can have your students actually talk about why they did it that way and what is in their design. And that opens up a conversation that wouldn't have been there before unless you had that almost workshop style setup. I compare it to when I was taking art classes like years ago. It's the exact same mentalities. Like some things are going to work, some things are not going to work. No one's going to get it perfect the first time. And you might actually get some ideas from other people just by sharing it that's going to influence the next time you play. And so ultimately, I think this isn't like a thing where, and here's another interesting part about Minecraft for education, is you'll get students who are heavily invested in the game. Like they've played thousands and thousands of hours, literally since the age of 5. This game is 10 years old, so there are fans who have just completely surpassed my limited knowledge of the game, and I'm going back to when it was still beta. They've invested so much time in the game that there's no possible way that I could ever sort of match their knowledge of all the different elements in there. But you'll see them come up with stuff that's just like, you're always like, why didn't I think of that? That's a perfect design. It uses it's the fastest one. It's actually the best one I've seen. But that's an idea that I didn't, no one in the class had that until they presented it and they started talking about why they did it that way. One of the best ones I saw was actually at Mindfair 2 years ago when I went. And it was an older participant. I'm guessing they were in their late teens. They seemed like they knew a lot about the game. It was almost too easy for them. they had figured out a way to use the mobs in the game itself as kind of like decoys around the outside of their base. So it was, and the way they explained it was like, the best way to play this is to not have an active defense, but set up a passive defense around your perimeter. And that's, I can usually tell when you've got or you will be able to tell an advanced player when they start using the game mechanics itself kind of against what's happening in the game. So for example, and I just learned this like a week ago, everyone knows about creepers. They're everywhere, especially at night in Minecraft. Apparently cats are like, it's like the equivalent of like the elephant and the mouse. You know, like for some reason they're just really scared of cats. So you can have pets in the game, and actually, from what it sounds like, I haven't tested this yet, but actually a cat will probably be your best defense for that specific type of monster or mob in the game. Gosh, how many times will I say in the game today? There's other sort of tricks like that are, it's funny, it's almost like there's this entire encyclopedia of knowledge associated with Minecraft that at first glance it just looks like a very simple 3D block game, but it's actually been developed for 10 years now. They just had their anniversary last February. By the way, I'm also a part-time Minecraft historian. The amount of developer time that has gone into this one single game, I think, is not matched by anything in, at least in modern times. Maybe there's some like multiplayer online RPG type stuff that is that depth of knowledge for people to go into, but it's sort of like one of those ultimate fandom type things where they have reached a point now where things get added into the game every year based on a viewer's choice award type vote during the, what's it called, Minecraft Earth. They usually do a live stream where they announce some sort of new thing. Last year, they were voting on a new... Oh, excuse me. They were voting on a new mob or monster, and... what one? I think it was the Terra biome one. So it's evolving over time, and it seems like there's no stopping Minecraft right now. From what I understand, and I don't know if this is still on track, there is a feature film that's on the way in 2022. It is still one of the best-selling video games of all time, so I'm really convinced that as soon as we get VR, it's just gonna explode in popularity once again. So I've personally tried, I think, 3 different versions of Minecraft VR. They're not really... It's not my favorite VR experience, but it is worth trying out 1 or 2 times. What is that sound coming from? Something outside my window on the street here is making a repeating noise. Hopefully you can't hear it. Anyway, Minecraft VR... as soon as we can get it so it's room scale instead of a seated experience, that will be amazing. Because right now the problem is that it's one of the few things that I've played where I actually got motion sickness, like right away. That motion sickness comes from the fact that your brain, your eyes have tricked you into thinking that you're moving, but your inner ear, that little, I think it's like a sphere. There's an area in your brain that's filled with fluid that lets you know, like, basically which direction is gravity. It should always be sort of one direction. And whenever you get signals crossing over, like what happens in VR, that's when you start getting the motion sickness. So the way that it's been working is you got to use a controller to kind of like teleport around. At least that's the way it is. So there's the two versions I've tried. One of them is Windows based. I think it was the Windows 10 or the Oculus version. That one's all right. A little confusing at first because it's funny how they do it. It's set up so it's like you are in a room watching Minecraft on almost like a movie projector screen. And then there's an extra button, and the first couple times I didn't even realize this button was there. That would then sort of transport you into the movie screen, so it's more like a first-person thing instead of simulating a computer screen that you're playing on. That one's all right. Vivecraft is, and despite the name, it does work on Oculus also. You need to download some extra mods to get it going. But quasi cross-platform. Vivecraft is a sort of user-made extension that it's a little bit closer to that sort of one-to-one experience where you can move your head around. It's 6 degrees of freedom. You can kind of move in and out to look close at things, but you're still in this sort of teleport mode. So walking around, at least the last time I remember playing, walking around is more like point and click to get to the next spot. It's not like you can just sort of walk like you would in any other VR experience. You're still kind of tied to that weird motion thing. This is a long explanation to say that as soon as we can get room scale with Minecraft VR, it'll be way more fun. I'm not sure how they'll do it, but that was definitely one of the most popular things I remember seeing at Mindfair when I went. If you're on any sort of Minecraft fan site, it seems to come up like every other week. Someone asks like, how do I play Minecraft on VR? Not in that voice. They have a meme that says it. But it's really, I mean, it's there, but it's got to be optimized too. We have over at the library, we have a pretty nice sort of gaming computer set up, and it was still kind of, because it wasn't an official thing. It was still very choppy, even on our nice computer. So it's got to be optimized more, and it needs to be room scale. And then I think once we get to that point and multiplayer is officially supported, it'll be like a whole new era of this game starting. Yeah, definitely with the cost of VR equipment going down also. But I would say we got at least another decade with this game being popular. It seems to have broken out of that 4-year cycle that most of the entertainment media seems to be stuck in. Can't believe it's been over a half hour now, and I just nonstop Minecraft. I could literally do this all day. That's what is scary to me right now, is that I know far too much about this game. And folks, I'm not paid by Microsoft or Mojang. This is all fan base. So, unbiased information right now. Let's be sure to stay hydrated. So let's see. Let me check my notes here. Maybe there's something I forgot to talk about here. We've talked about Minecraft past, present. We talked about those events. So, Applied Computing Foundation, MC Rocks. Oh, there is some other. So if you want to try out the education edition at home, there's a good chance that your school might already have access. Like if you're here from Palo Alto, from what I've heard, the school district does have some access. There is at least one course already using this. if you have any sort of .edu email address, you can also get the teacher demo for free. I've tried that out. It's limited, so it's limited to I think 10 sessions versus the demo that you can download with just an email and password. That one's time limited, so it's only I think it's like 90 minutes at a time, something like that. It's like 4 days in game is all I can play, and then it shuts down. The other problem with that demo is that it doesn't get you into creative mode, which is maybe one of the more interesting sides of Minecraft that I don't really ever touch on because it's not my jam. I like survival mode more, but at the same time, there's some really cool stuff you can do in creative mode. And what is that? That's basically just take the game and take the sandbox concept and just extend that so that you can, all you're doing is building, really. You don't really have to mine for resources. You don't have to break blocks or anything like that. Creative mode is a lot more like MS Paint and 3D, that sort of setup. And if creative mode really interests you, you can go a step further and try out something like MC Edit. That's a third-party software that would let you import a 3D model or take your Minecraft creation, export it as a like an STL file, a 3D printer compatible file, and build that in real life. It's a powerful tool. So I've seen this at makerspaces many times where just being able to show people like what you've created in reality like that. Minecraft is very user friendly in that sense. It's all sort of like virtual Legos, so you can kind of design, to any scale that you want. The one problem though, that I've heard from instructors is that the limitations of your 3D printer versus what you can make in Minecraft, that doesn't always translate into the student's mind. So you might run into situations where it's like, this looks cool in game or on screen, but actually printing it is not going to work because older style 3D printers, you need to have some supports underneath for just depending on the shape of things. And that's too bad. But in the future when we have our fancy 3D glasses and you can just kind of project whatever you've made on Minecraft on a tabletop, that will be amazing also. Actually, one of my dreams is to have and especially for an education setting, having a like spectator mode, almost like a bird's eye view of your Minecraft server in VR while all your students are out playing on their desktop version or their console version or whatever. Just being able to have that sort of like spectator view in VR would be so amazing. That would be really fun. And then you take that and project it to or stream it to Twitch or some other platform like that. That would be a really fun way and I've actually seen this already with people do like time lapse videos of whatever they've made in the game. Very fun. Fun to watch too. There's some other kind of creative things you can do in Minecraft also. I mean, there's the whole, avatars or skin making is definitely another place it is easy to explore. So the way that works is basically like, I mean, there's tools that help you do this too, but the skin is really just a flat 2D image file. And if you know the coordinates for each section of that little Minecraft character, designing around that is it's something that can be taught in a half hour. And then whatever new and interesting thing in pop culture that you want to import into the game, it's right there. It does not take a ton of time, although making it look good is a trial and error thing for sure. Yeah. What else? I think I'll probably, when I edit this, I'll probably chop out these blank spots in the middle. But if you're listening from the future, just know that this was totally unscripted. So that's the fun thing about Twitch and streaming. Oh, I should probably talk about server setup. So that's another thing that is back over in the PLP, plp.org website. I did a couple posts about server setup and how that works. I'm kind of, specifically for libraries, having talked to a few of my friends back east who are teen or children's librarians who do this or did this in past jobs. I don't know if I would jump into a server right away. It is kind of a commitment, especially if you are, sort of if this is like your solo program. You don't yet have that support or funding for a hosted Minecraft server, and there's lots of services out there that do that. The one that I've heard spoken highly of is a company called MC Pro Host or mcprohosting.com. But it's also something that you can run at home. If I was gonna do it myself, I would probably find an old computer that wasn't useful or being used for anything, and just turn that into my dedicated Minecraft server. The server software is free, so you don't even have to own it to get set up. But then the security side, that's where things get interesting. And originally my plan was to make part of the toolkit on that PLP website include server setup as a Minecraft server setup as a sort of example of threat modeling. But then, the reality is that if you want to be efficient with your time, really going with a hosted service or specifically like a managed hosting service. So that's one where you are paying for the extra sort of white glove treatment on your server. They'll do the updates for you. That's probably the best way to go. Rolling your own Minecraft server it's not rocket science, but it could be like your worst nightmare if you had issues or if you were not well versed on like backups or things like that. Again, it does sort of wrap into that whole meta Minecraft concept that I was talking about before. So you could conceivably see a workshop or maybe even a future book where the details of a Minecraft server and self-hosting is tied directly into that idea of threat modeling and sort of pre-planning what could go wrong, basically. I mean, there's definitely plenty of controls in terms of like moderating chat or even just disabling chat if everyone's going to be playing in the same room together. Although that reality is kind of disappeared at the moment, but definitely one of the best ways to play is as a group on a server. It's just a lot more fun. You can get stuff done a lot faster. You kind of end up with this like division of labor thing, which is a little weird. Everyone working on the same thing at one time might not be the best option. Some of the classroom examples of this I've seen is students will split up and kind of, okay, you're going to do all the mining and I'm going to do all the farming. And then they've built this sort of like small, oh gosh, what was that book? Okay, it's not Lord of the Flies, but you can kind of see how that, like the survival server aspect in a Minecraft setup kind of starts getting close to those topics. Like you need to have, there's some basic survival elements. There's some hierarchy of needs here that are going to start coming up if you've got a group server set up. Most recently, they added a new sort of gameplay element where if you find a village in the game, there is actually a rival sort of clan that will attack you, and that's a whole nother level of this sort of threat modeling aspect that I haven't even got to yet. It's funny. So over the course of a year, doing that research and doing all that writing, so much changed about the game that it was almost like I was talking about something completely different by the end of it, because early on there wasn't even like, okay, had there been an iPad version out that people knew about when I first wrote the grant, that would have been the most direct and easy way to get this into the hands of libraries, because iPads are so much easier to manage in a group compared to a set of computers in your computer lab that have a completely different use for like 90% of the time they're going to be open to the public. Most of the time, you might not want gaming happening in your computer lab because, I mean, let's be honest, it's an exciting thing. People are going to shout and scream once they start playing video games. That's not a bad thing. I mean, the way we do it at my library, I should say, is we have a set sort of gaming hour. It's called Game On, or was called Game On. It's not being offered right now, of course, because our buildings are all closed. But you got to set aside some space for that type of fun to happen. Hopefully in a setting where you can kind of control the audio level too. So, just be aware. Some things do happen in game that, for example, this is one of my favorite memes actually. Minecraft sounds, the soundscape of the game is kind of its own separate thing too. So it does involve all the senses. It's not just visual. That's often like the early warning sign that something bad is about to happen. So, the joke is like panel 1, hearing the sound of zombies. Panel 2, oh, that's okay, I'm not playing the game. Panel 3, wait, I'm not playing the game. Like, it sort of invades your memory in a way that's kind of, and part of that is based on just the amount of time that gets spent in this sort of virtual world. It's funny that way for sure. Well, I think we covered a lot of ground here. It's coming up towards the end of the hour. I'll let you guess what time it is. It's time to wrap things up. So, I hope you enjoyed this podcast edition of Minecraft Q&A. I might try to do some gameplay next time. We'll see. Still kind of figuring out how the software works. More importantly, which computer am I going to do it on, because I'm surrounded by like 6 different options here. We'll pick the best one. I'm kind of interested in doing a demo of something called, it was released a couple months ago. It's like the Uncensored Library. It's a collection it's like a virtual library where you can go and see different banned authors in different countries. Just a little subversive in your Minecraft gameplay is not a bad thing. It was a really cool project. There's also maybe I will check out, there was an article in the Palo Alto Online I saw a couple months ago about one of the schools around here that one of the students, it was an elementary school, they had built a virtual version of that looked interesting. Oh, and I forgot to mention this earlier, but I was over on meetup.com trying to find that San Jose MC Rock server thing. And I saw this Saturday there's an event about let's see if I can find the I've lost my tab. Lost my browser window. It was something about how they recreated MIT. You know, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in there. And actually I heard I think UC Berkeley did something like that recently for their graduation thing too. So yeah, we could take a tour of that. We could also, I found a tool online recently that will let you export. It'll let you export from OpenStreetMaps and give you a what happened now? Did I lose my stream? Okay, we're still here. It'll let you export from the map and then play sort of like a blocky version of your neighborhood. So I did one where it was the Mitchell Park Library. It was kind of fun. Although it's not quite lined up right. I wish the streets were sort of... Maybe I can figure out how to fix that in time. But, you know, I want those straight lines. So, like, Middlefield is not like this sort of jagged diagonal thing, but just kind of everything would be square. It would be perfect. But anyway, that's for maybe next week. I need to check with my teammates here on our stream schedule. But, you know, if you liked what you heard, if you're interested in hearing more, you can definitely hit that subscribe button, hit the follow button if you're on Twitch. The nice thing about that is that you'll get a notification, you know, whenever we're online. So it's not like you have to, you know, constantly hit that refresh button because you just can't get enough Minecraft. I know you're out there. I know that's your biggest concern right now. So I'm joking, of course. That I think will be the end of the stream. It's 4:24. I can't believe I talked the entire time. I'm usually not this talkative, but when it comes to Minecraft and video games for education, it is maybe one of the funnest things you can do and get paid. So, you know, no complaints there. Oh, Miss Molly, thank you. It's been fun. I didn't even know you were there. You didn't say anything in chat. That's okay. We'll stop by again for another round of Minecraft Q&A. Did that fade? I tried to do a fade, but it didn't work. We'll figure out the audio issues for next time too. Sorry about that problem with the last stream, but we're doing it live. We are learning as we go, and that is fun. That is that growth mindset that we encourage through gameplay. Yada yada yada. Okay. I'm gonna hit stop now. So hope you have a good day. Hope if you hear this in the year 3000 that you look back and say, wow, Minecraft was so simple back then. Now all of society is just built into Minecraft. It's amazing. That's probably a good place to end, so I'll press the button now.